thinks they got the Salvation Prayer in with him. I'm not 100% sure because he couldn't speak it at the end, but they think that they got him.
Feet on the cross.
Yeah.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome here. And at this time, I'd like to turn the opening over to Councillor Jake Siemens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With a plan to build a dog park at Ellie Barkman Kinsman Park, I thought maybe a little bit of history on how that park came to exist might be of interest. With Code Red, I was not able to access the library or Dirksen printers to confirm information. So this account is from the memories of various individuals, including, besides myself, including Kinsman members Ray Scarf and Arv Gatton. The story about L.A. Barkman Kinsman Park starts in downtown Steinbach, what is now known as the E.A. Friesen Park, beside the Epp Library. In the late 1950s, the Kinsman Club of Steinbach, together with the town of Steinbach, built a pool and wading pool within that park. That pool was called the Kinsman Pool, as it was operated by the Kinsman Club. The pool was an asphalt dugout with all sides sloping into the middle to the depth of 9 feet. I grew up swimming in that pool. By the late 1960s, the pool was falling into disrepair, and the decision by council was to shut it down and demolish it, which they did. That left the large Kinsman Club with many members, which was a very strong service club. They were looking for another project that would complement the town. One of the Kinsman members was former Mayor L.A. Barkman, as well as a former MLA for Steinbach, whose family owned property on the west side of Steinbach. In 1973, the town bought 40-acre property for a princely sum of $18,000, which was a substantial sum at that time. As a side note, that year I was in grade 11 at the newly opened SRSS. The town then turned the development of the park over to the Kinsman Club. In the early 1970s, Giesbrecht Street was still gravel, as well Friesen, most of Friesen was gravel at that time too, or Woodhaven today, and stopped at the corner of Reimer. With open fields to the west and the south, homes along Giesbrecht were only north of Friesen, or present-day Woodhaven, and Resthaven was still 10 years away from being built. The park was truly outside of Steinbach. Kinsman Club drew up plans that included a large lake with the dirt from that excavation to build a hill within the park, walking trails, backstops, sand pits, play structures along with a picnic shelter, an outdoor performance stage positioned on the hill, and of course, washroom facilities. At the same time as that was going on, Manitoba Highways was planning on removing the 2-lane number 12 with ditches on both sides and installing a new 4-lane road with a center boulevard and storm sewer. The manager of the Eastern District of Manitoba Highways was a gentleman by the name of Doug Struthers, a Steinbach resident as well as a Kinsman. The Highways Department needed to move a lot of dirt to build the highway, and through all the discussions, it was agreed to make a hill out of that dirt at L.A. Barkman Kinsman Park from the rebuilding as part of the road construction. If my information is correct, the dirt work was contracted to Kay's Construction, whose owner was the mayor of Steinbach at that time, A.D. Penner. The hill was officially named Kin Hill. They installed a pressure-treated sign atop the hill, had an opening ceremony for naming the hill along with the park, and that gave the hill the name. But it's been a very frustrating point for the Kinsman Club that built the hill, but the name never stuck. And few know to this day that it was not named Abe's Hill. It is likely that the mayor of Steinbach, Abe D. Penner, was given credit for building the hill as he was the mayor at that time and would have promoted the new park accordingly. And his equipment was used to build the hill, so that could be the reason it's so often called Abe's Hill. The lake never materialized at the park, but the hill did. Besides the hill, a ball diamond, sandpit, and swings were installed, and trees were obtained from Indian Head that bordered the complete park, and a cedar rail fence protected those trees as it surrounded the complete property. The Kinsmen spent a whole summer getting the area leveled for proper drainage and was able to seed the grass that fall. The creek still exists today in the same location. The plan actually was to widen the creek to a lake through a building of a spillway on the north end, and it would fill in spring and maintain the level of the lake through the summer and into the winter, so it could be used year-round. After the hill was built, it needed to be rounded so it could be used and be more user-friendly. Ray Scarf, Kinsman president and assistant principal at the SRSS, went to the mayor, A.D. Penner, and volunteered to do the work, if only he could borrow a caterpillar to shape the hill. A.D. didn't believe him, and they argued about it until Ray says, here, I'll have to show you that I can operate equipment. Little did the mayor know that Ray had grown up operating equipment as it had been a family business back home. That first winter, the hill was a height of roughly 45 feet, sloped to the northeast, but very steep on the south side, and became a busy place for family outings and different youth groups. Having connections to the carpenter courses at SRSS through Ray Scarf, the Kinsman Club then built a warming shack and toboggan slide on top of the hill. In addition, a water line was installed from the corner of what's Woodhaven today and Giesbrecht to the top of the hill. The water line was used to ice the toboggan slide to make sure enough speed was gained when sledding in the winter. That water line was disconnected this last summer when the extension of Woodhaven went in. The hill was a popular place for sliding in winter and did attract dirt bikes and vehicles as it was on the outskirts of town. While the youth of Steinbach would often be caught parking on top of the hill at night by the Steinbach Town Police, it was used as a place to sell Steinbach by real estate agents and by Steinbach's own mayor to promote potential business to community. It was a place where life could be contemplated, all due to the fact it was the highest and easily accessible point around Steinbach, and you could certainly see Steinbach's growing skyline. In 1980 and 81, a number of events took place. A young boy broke his leg on the toboggan slide, and that same year, the warm-up shack and slide were burnt and badly damaged. By that time, the Kinsmen were running out of volunteer manpower, struggling with the upkeep that area needed, and was falling into disrepair, with the trees dying off due to not being taken care of, and all the structures needed either removing or repairing. But there was a lawsuit pending over the broken leg, and it was agreed that the town of Steinbach take over the maintenance of the park. To avert a lawsuit, it was agreed that the structure would be removed, the hill would be reshaped. The reshaping lowered the top of the hill by approximately 10 feet to make all sides slope to its current shape, what it is today. Today, the hill is roughly 36 feet high. When the city took over the site in the mid-80s, they hired UMA to complete a park plan. Today, the park is mostly as the original layout, except for one thing. The original plan had a one-way drive that was planned to travel over the top of the hill. If I remember right, council of the day thought it might be too risky to pave a road over top of that hill because people from Steinbach were not used to riding a bicycle down a hill. A light was added to the top of the hill within the last 10 years, so winter sliding could take place at night, and exercise equipment was also added to the parkways and making it a more user-friendly area. Today, the park is heavily used, summer and winter, especially since the pathway was opened from Highway 52 to Mackenzie. With Woodhaven extension and the parking lot restored in 2020 and a future plan for a dog park, it will continue to be an important part of a passive green space inventory in Steinbach. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Siemens. Council, we have the agenda in front of us, but just before we, for a motion to adopt the agenda, under number 12, other business, I'd like us to add a motion from Councillor Susan Penner. So we'll add that, and then looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Swagstra. Any comments?
None.
Okay. We'll call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Council, we have the minutes of December 15th, 2020, the regular council meeting. They start on page 1. We've all had a chance to review them. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Siemens. Any comments? Okay, we'll call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Is there looking for any business arising from the minutes? Okay, seeing none, we will move to number 6, our public hearing. This is 6A, this is Variance V-2020-30, referring to 530 Wilson. At this time, I will close the council meeting, open the public hearing. Mr. Workning, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this variance file application V-2020-30 for 530 Wilson Street in Steinbach has been applied for by Span West Building Corporation, with the owner of the property being Steinbach Housing, Inc. Purpose of the variance application is to vary the width of a two-way parking aisle within a parkade from the required 22 feet under the City of Steinbach zoning bylaw to a width of 18 feet. Notices as required under the Planning Act have been issued. There is one piece of correspondence that has been received, and that was from the applicant. The council should have received a copy of that in their mail bins. With respect to the application, administration has reviewed, have provided council with information on precedents with previous parking aisle width reduction requests. But with the examples that are provided, council has not reduced parking aisle widths to less than 22 feet in other applications. Recommendation from administration is that council deny the application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Workentine. Is the applicant here today? Do you wish to speak? Sure. Okay, just for, because everything's taped, approach the podium, state your name and address, and go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Mike Fast, and I'm speaking before the applicant here. He can't be here because he's in Saskatchewan, and travel is difficult these days, so we're going to do our best. Thought I would come and answer any questions you guys might have. I did talk to the applicant a little earlier on today, and I'd asked him a little bit about the history, because they've built this building quite a few times. And so I wanted to get a bit of a sense for what they had done in the past. And he said they actually recently changed this aisle width. They used to build it at about 14.5, 15 feet, and they did about 80 buildings like that. It's meant to be a single lane. Either you're coming or going, you only have a small parkade, there's only 24 units, and the parking width that we have for a minimum from the city is meant for traffic passing both ways. If you look at some of the commercial spaces, even the one that we recently built by the old Husky site on the corner of Lowen and number 12 has about 23 feet there, but cars are both passing by at the same time. This is designed just for one in or one out. It's on the main level, so that keeps it easier. You're not going down into a parkade. It's on that same grade. So this is actually wider. This 18 feet is a new design for them. They've built this, I believe, 12 times like this with 18 feet and about 80 times previously at that 14.5 foot. So they did make it a little bit wider. The challenges on this site is if they do make this building wider to accommodate that parking width, you can see everything tightens up and it makes that site quite a bit tighter. So it's certainly something that they don't want to change at this point. Considering this is a building they build over and over again, they know it very well. The other thing is that if they didn't change the envelope of the building to accommodate that parking lane width, all those little spaces along the bottom there, those are meeting rooms, and one is a workshop, and the other one is some maintenance stuff. They couldn't be there anymore. They would have to disappear. So it's either make the building wider, which is difficult with this site, or lose some of those amenities, which is tough. So the applicant would really like to continue with this width that they know works because they've done it so many times in the past.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of council? Okay, thank you very much. We might call you back. Is there anyone here with questions or objections for this file? I'll ask one more time. Is there anyone here with questions or objections for this file? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and we'll reopen the council meeting. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Swakstra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve the variance.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Siemens? Go ahead, Councillor Swakstra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the variance request is a reasonable one in this case. I know that we have our rules in regards to parking aisles that do make sense when we're dealing with outdoor parking, but in this case, we're dealing with indoor parking, an indoor parkade that it's not only is it not accessible to the public, it's not even really even visible to the public, and so. If they've built this building many times before and they don't have a problem, I'm not really seeing the problem with allowing the 18-foot parking aisle, because as the applicant has pointed out, you're not going to have cars passing each other. The door the width of the door makes it very clear it's one car going through at a time, and so the only people that are impacted in any way by this are people who are choosing to live in that building and will be parking in there. And if they're fine with it, and if the developer is fine with it, then I think it makes sense to go ahead. And as far as precedent, the precedent this sets is that we are willing to be flexible when we're looking at an indoor parkade and when there's an entrance and there's only one car that can go through at any given time. And I'm okay with that precedent.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Siemens?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with the logic of that's within the letter as well. And again, it is private property, and I think the logic makes sense that we approve 18 feet.
Anything further of council? Is there anything in closing?
No.
Okay, council, it all seems pretty straightforward, and yes, the letter does explain quite well. I do have one question, Mr. Warkentine, for administration. Do we have a minimum for the width of a lane for just like a single use, like single vehicle?
Well, the city zoning bylaw in its section that covers parking requirements, there is adjustments to the required lane widths if it is a one-way lane. But for two-way parking aisles, the minimum requirement in all cases is 22 feet.
Okay. So there is an adjustment. What is the adjustment for I guess, single use, be one vehicle at a time?
Well, the zoning bylaw is not worded in that way. It refers to one-way parking aisle, and that is if traffic is permitted only to travel one direction.
Okay.
In this case, it would be two-way, so I'm not sure if that would be applicable.
Okay, thank you, I understand. Okay. Council will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, thank you. Council, we have no delegations, so we'll move right to number 8A, reports and recommendations of city manager. That is the equipment purchase, a landfill crawler, which starts on page 15 of the council agenda. Mr. Workning, could you please introduce this file?
Yes, this is purchase of a landfill crawler, which is being brought before council under the city's purchasing and tendering bylaw and policy. This exceeds the authorization limit of myself as city manager for approval, and as a result, it's being brought to council for consideration. But the city has been shopping for a replacement landfill crawler for some time. We have now sourced a unit through the AMM capital purchasing program. This particular program has already done the advance work on the required tendering process that is required for all government purchases. And as a result, this does reduce the administrative time and investment for the city dramatically. With the available products that were reviewed, the recommendation from administration is that the city proceed with the purchase of a 2020 John Deere crawler, as is noted in the package, for the purchase price of $435,000 plus municipal taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Workteen. Councillor, would you like to proceed? Councillor Hebert.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hebert. Go ahead, Councillor Hebert.
I appreciate the work that the administration has done in pricing this and going through AMM for the equipment. As always, we want our employees to have good equipment, and looking at the inventory on this equipment, it appears to be not only a nice piece of equipment, but also one that will work well for the city. I notice also that it's $90,000 cheaper than the Tormer and Cat that AMM was pricing, so I think it's a good investment.
Okay, thank you. Anything further, Councillor Hebert?
I think it's good to maintain good equipment, to have safe equipment, reliable equipment, so I think it's a good move.
Anything further of council?
Nothing further.
And nothing in closing, Councillor?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Nothing further.
okay. Well, then we'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We will go to 9A, accounts payable in the back of the book. Council looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Siemens. Any comments?
No comment.
Anything further of council? Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. 9B, the financial statements is ending November 30th, 2020. Also in the back of the book, looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Swigstra. Any comments?
No comments.
Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, number 9C, we've got the bylaw 2157 safety standards. Council will be doing second and third reading today. It starts on page 19 of our agenda. Mr. Worthing, could you please introduce this file?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. As mentioned, bylaw 2157, which is the city's dwelling unit safety standards bylaw, was initially introduced to council committee in May of this year, and council did provide first reading for this bylaw on September 1st, or I should say last year. But the general issues that were seen as becoming more and more frequent in Steinbach was frequent lack of compliance with minimum life safety standards for residential properties in Steinbach. This bylaw seeks to address those particular concerns, and administration recommends second and third reading at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Worthing. Just a question for you, Mr. Worthing. These safety standards, they're mostly applied to the secondary suites?
Typically, that's where the majority of the issues are being identified, and that is the focus, the general focus of where the bylaw is to be applied.
Okay, thank you. Okay, council, we're looking for a motion to approve second reading. Councillor Swigstra,
I'll make the motion for second reading.
do we have a seconder? Councillor Siemens? Go ahead, Councillor Swigstra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is obviously something we've talked about a number of times. This is a continuation of the process of getting this bylaw through. And again, just to briefly summarize, that the objective here is to deal with minimum life safety standards for secondary suites within the city. We know that there are many of these suites that exist, and it's important that we make sure that no matter where you live in the city, that you have proper smoke alarm, proper carbon monoxide alarms, and that every unit has access to a safe, continuous, and unobstructed exit out of the building. These are basic things. I mean, if there were any kind of accident or fire or anything. Obviously, these are basic minimum safety standards, and so it's an important step forward in trying to make sure that everyone is safe within our city. We want to prevent tragedies from happening, and I think it's good that we're moving in this direction. I think it's reasonable, it's fair to expect any property owner to make sure that all units within their building have these minimum safety standards.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Siemens?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it should be noted that what we consider a minimum safety standard today would include a smoke alarm in each bedroom and the remainder of the dwelling suite, smoke detector that must be tested at least once a year, carbon monoxide alarms must be installed, and egress. Each building should have at least an access that would provide a safe exit. So I think that's the minimum we're asking people to hold to with their secondary suites, as well as approximate cost of doing all this work if it all needed and was all required to be plus or minus $3,000 is what's indicated in the notes. So I do think that this is important. It protects some of the marginalized in our community potentially, but I think it is important that we move forward. It should also be noted that the first year that the city staff will be spending about 500 hours to implement this. So I think it's also, there's a large cost to our city staff as well to do this, but I think this is an important step.
Thank you. Anything further of council? Councillor Penner.
Can I ask a question through you to to the administration, please?
Yes, go ahead.
I just have a question. Have you been getting any feedback on this from the public or any people being proactive, residential?
Yes, we did implement a public engagement process, obviously with COVID being taking up most of 2020 and this bylaw only being introduced in the latter part of last year. The primary means of connecting with the public was through our website and online video. The city recorded, I can't recall exactly how many views, but there was several hundred views of the informational video. About a dozen comments were received from the community, but generally most comments were in favor of the city proceeding.
All right, and then one more question, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of implementing it, how do you see that being done? Are we trusting that, let's say, for rental units, the landlords will be in good faith, be going ahead and making these changes? Are tenants going to be reporting unsafe situations, or how do you see this?
Generally what we are hoping for, at least the majority of compliance will be voluntary. The city does have a list of potential properties that we would like to be able to inspect to verify whether or not particular properties comply. However, as this bylaw deals with the inspection of dwelling units, there are very specific rules that must be followed. And typically what we do expect and what we're hoping for is contact from property owners or tenants to request an inspection to ensure that the property is in compliance.
Great, thank you. I will be supporting the motion. What I like about this is that it does give tenants the option or a way to get their property inspected where they're living. So even if the landlord hasn't taken care of the property or hasn't made the appropriate changes to make it safe, this does provide an avenue for tenants now to make sure they're living in a safe situation.
Thank you. Anything further of council? Anything in closing? Well, council, I agree. Councilor Swagstra, your comments were very complete, and you've stated it all. But I agree with both you and Councilor Siemens. Everyone deserves a safe place to live, and I'm really glad that we're doing this at this time, and that our basic requirements that we're asking are not onerous. You know, they can be done with a few $1,000s. And this will just ensure safety. It'll ensure safety for the residents of our community, but also if there are mishaps, there are fires or things that happen, it'll be safety also for our staff as they go in, our EMS, our fire people. So, Council, I just ask for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, Council, we'll go directly into third reading, looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Siemens, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments? Any further of Council? Okay, call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We have 9D, we have business licenses, page 30 in our package. Looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Swaystra. Any comments?
No comments.
Anything further? Anything further of Council? Okay, call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. 9E, we have lottery licenses on page 31. There's a few there. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Siemens. Any comments?
No comments.
Nothing further? Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we've got council question period. Are there any questions of council? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to number 11, correspondence and petitions. We've got the grant request from KD Cares. Council, how would you like to proceed? Take it as information. Okay. And we have the Pat Porter Active Living Center. They've got a 2021 fundraising event. Council, just take that as information. Okay, thank you. And we've got the, on page 35, we've got the Epp Library Board minutes, December 16th. Council, how would you like to proceed? Take it as information at this time. Thank you. That brings us to number 12, other business. And as I said before, we have a motion coming from Councillor Susan Penner. Councillor Penner, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I make a motion, I would just like to ask a few questions of administration. Thank
Go ahead, yep.
My motion and my questions tonight are in regards to the Clear Spring Greens pathway. I would just like to start by asking Mr. Workington a few questions. Has the Clear Spring Greens pathway file been seen by the Municipal Board yet?
They did receive it, I believe it was in January of last year.
Okay, do you know if they've reviewed it yet?
I'm not sure to what extent, other than a preliminary review, but at this point, there is no public hearing scheduled as of today.
Okay, thank you. And could you remind me how many official objections were filed in regards to the Clear Spring Greens?
My understanding
pathway?
is there was 78 filed with the Municipal Board.
Okay, and how many parcels are in that development?
146.
And how many objections trigger a Municipal Board election, or I mean, review?
A public hearing, yeah. Municipal Board public hearing for a local improvement proposal such as this one would require at least 25 or 10% of the potential taxpayers objecting in order to trigger a public hearing.
So would that be 15 in this case, the 10%?
Yeah, in this case, the minimum would have been 15.
Okay, I just have a couple more questions here. Under the current plan, how much is each landowner expected to pay for this Clear Spring Greens pathway?
I'll answer with two parts. The initial proposal, which was advertised and under which the public hearing was based, I believe the total cost per parcel was estimated at approximately $4,200. However, with the subsequent amendments made by City Council subsequent to that public hearing, in that City Council approved a change that the lighting component would be paid entirely by the Capital Development Reserve. That requirement per parcel reduced to about $2,850 per parcel.
Okay, and then my last question is, in 2021, how much of capital development fees are designated per sidewalk on a new lot?
Under City Bylaw 2127, which is our residential capital development fee bylaw, the fee rate in 2021 is $1,610 per single-family dwelling.
Okay, thank you so much. In light of this, I would like to make the following motion to council. Whereas the current Clear Spring Greens Pathway project has 78 objections, be it resolved that the city cancel the current Clear Spring Greens Pathway plan and develop a new plan for this project.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Siemens, second the motion. Go ahead, Councillor Finner.
Thank you. I've spent a considerable amount of time reflecting on the Clear Spring Greens Pathway project, and I've come to the conclusion that given the fact that over half the lot owners have objected to the plan, means we should reconsider what we are proposing. I would like council to consider doing a new plan for the sidewalk that would see the lights removed from the project and then splitting the cost of the asphalt path 50-50. This would bring down the cost dramatically and hopefully would get the support of the neighborhood. I realize this means we would need a new public hearing, but I would like to emphasize that the chances are the sidewalk won't get done this year if we stick with the current plan, as it may not be renewed by the municipal board on time for the summer, and even if it is, because the objections are so significant, the municipal board may reject the plan anyway. I personally think redoing the plan is the best chance we have for getting it done, especially this summer. Regarding removing the lighting, the path from the pool to Lowen is unlit, as is the path from the pool to the highway. So in terms of connecting Clear Spring Greens to the pool, it's not unusual, would not be unusual or out of place for it not to have lighting. In fact, most pathways in Steinbach do not have lighting. Based on preliminary estimates of the project from 2020, the total cost of the project with the lights is approximately $623,000. The cost of the lights are $160,000. So the total cost without lights is $463,000. If the city pays half of that, the cost to the area is $231,000. I divided it by 145 houses in the area or lots in the area, and it means that cost per property is $1,600 over 5 years, which is about $27 a month. The $1,600 number is key because it is the same cost as what the sidewalk development portion of a new lot would be if bought today, as Mr. Workington said, 1610 specifically. This is a fee that was not factored in the price of the lots of Clear Spring Greens when it was developed, but it has been required on lots since then to collect money upfront for sidewalks and new developments and prevent the situation we find ourselves in now. In addition, the city has paid for the lot that the sidewalk needs to go through to connect the street to the path. So the city would actually be paying more than half if you factor that in, 60-40 approximately. Again, I realize there is a risk that by canceling the current project, some residents may still object to the project at a new public hearing. However, I've talked to many Clear Spring Greens residents that objected to the current plan, and they say they would be in support of this revised plan. I also believe that if it does end up going to the municipal board, this revised plan that is, it would have a much greater chance of passing than the plan that is currently there because the 1610 number is fair and clear. At the end of the day, we need to get this pathway done as soon as possible for the safety of Clear Spring Greens residents. I believe making the proposed changes gives us the best opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Siemens, anything further?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I agree with the motion that we need to rework this. I agree with the fee of $1,610. That is a fee that had been suggested in the past. To me, this is a safety issue for a variety of different reasons. Anybody who drives down that street, whatever that street is called, and Old Tom, that leads through it and leads to the, through Park Road, pardon me, is you can't walk down that road at night. And with the tremendous amount of traffic that has taken place, that takes place because of Old Tom being paved, there's no way for anybody from Clear Spring Greens to get to our parks or other facilities except by vehicle. And so it is critical, it is a safety issue for me. The cost of it is also important. It is sellable for council, the $1,600, because that is our capital development fee for sidewalk development. That has been paid for the last 14 years by anybody who buys a lot in Steinbach. So that covers it. And so that is sellable to the community. I've also talked to people in Clear Spring Greens. That's very sellable so that that pathway goes in. If we simplify it and say it's $1,600 and then council can build what council chooses to build there instead of having the wide-ranging discussions over lights or asphalt or so on, then it's a discussion at council as to what it should look like and what goes in. But the residents would know that it would be clear that their cost of that project that I would like to see happen this year is $1,610.
Thank you. Anything further of council? Councillor Swigstra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will support the motion. I think we all agree that we want the Clear Spring sidewalk to go ahead. And I think the plan that Councillor Susan Penner has put forward has the highest chance of going ahead successfully, and importantly, has a reasonable chance, a good chance of going ahead this year. Because if this plan gets significant support within the neighborhood, there's the possibility that we wouldn't even need to have a municipal board hearing, and that would be a great thing. In the end, I think that the amount that's specified is reasonable. The maximum amount is equivalent to what someone would pay if they were to go purchase a lot elsewhere within the city. You would be paying that in the price of the lot. So I think on the whole, I think this is a fair plan and a reasonable one, and we want the sidewalk to go ahead, and this is a good way forward.
Thank you. Anything further of council? Councillor Hebert and then Councillor.
I would just verify what these councillors have said. It's all about safety, and I definitely would support it. And I've heard from so many people from that area, and I think this is a viable plan, and I believe it should go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
A
Go
little
ahead.
bit of history. When that development first went in the early 1990s, then the Parks and Recreation Department was tasked with finding a way with a pathway to that area. And couldn't find any because of the private landowners and because the people that were renting would not allow the city to cross it. But this council found a way to build a potential pathway to that area. And I think that is key. For the last 25 years, no other council has been able to find a way to build a pathway to that community. And I think it is important to connect them to our community. And I do believe that likely within the next decade, that will become part of a wider path that will encircle that end of Steinbach so that that pathway can be continued.
Anything further of council? Anything in closing?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, as a city, we are committed to promoting a safe and affordable community for all residents of Steinbach, and this includes the Clear Spring Greens area. And I think by revising the plan, I'm hopeful this path can be built this summer, and then Clear Spring Green residents will have a safe way to connect to the rest of our sidewalk and regional path network.
Thank you. Well, council, I want to thank Councillor Penner for your hard work in this. And I know you've been in contact with the people from that area, and that you're close to some of the people that live there, and that is why this has always been heavy on your heart. And I want to thank you for the work you've done. You've worked hard on this, and I do believe this is a plan that could pass. This is a plan that the 1610 is fair and equitable across the whole community, because it's what everybody pays when they get in. So I think it's something that's very reasonable, and I think it's something that the neighborhood there will see that this is reasonable. But the second item, it's about safety, and we all agreed it was about safety, and that's why we worked hard on it last year. And that's how, when it first wasn't accepted, why we altered it and we made a change. and we thought the change was good at first, and in the end, it wasn't enough change, and I understand that. But I do believe this is enough change. I do believe this can work. I think we need to give this a chance, and we need to go forward on this and see where this goes. We'll be under time constrictions because we've got advertising time, and there'll be time because of local improvement, there'll be time with the municipal board anyways. But I think if we get going on this now, yes, we would be able to see one there this summer. So call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Just a question for,
I have to make the second motion yet. I'll just carry on here. Second motion here is to actually now get this revised plan going. Whereas the Clear Spring Greens neighborhood needs safe pedestrian access to Steinbach's network of sidewalks and regional pathways. Whereas the sidewalk development fee for new lots is $1,610, be it resolved that the City of Steinbach revise the previous Clear Spring sidewalk plan to remove the lighting and split the cost of the asphalt pathway 50-50 between the neighborhood residents and the city to a maximum of $1,610 a contribution per neighborhood parcel. The previous land purchase shall be covered entirely by the city. The city's portion of the funding will come from the Capital Development Reserve.
seconder, Councillor Siemens. Go ahead, Councillor Susan.
You know, I don't have any further comments. I think we discussed it all in the first motion.
Anything further? Anything further, council? I do have one question for administration. Mr. Workentine, in our discussion and in everything that came forward, do you have all the information you need to proceed?
This will provide clear direction so that administration can prepare the local improvement plan, draft the bylaw, prepare the required notices to the potential taxpayers, and then we will bring it back to council for appropriate bylaw readings and the public hearing that's required, as soon as we are able.
Okay, so we can proceed with first reading? You're good with what the information? we have?
The resolution gives, is clear.
Okay.
So that gives enough information to draft a new plan, yes.
Okay, good. Anything further in closing? Okay, we'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Siemens, second by Councillor Hebert. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next regular council meeting is on Tuesday, January 19th, 2021, 7:30 p.m. Thank you.
Hockey game starts in 10